Right now, Sri Lankans have been voting in key parliamentary elections, widely seen as a referendum on the former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Now, Mr Rajapaksa is standing as an MP. He hopes to become Prime Minister. Ultimately, he suffered a shock defeat in snap presidential elections back in January. He lost out to his former Health Minister, Sri. Here's our South Asia correspondent, Justin Rowlett.
The Sri Lankan government encouraged people to vote early, in part because the polls close early, 4 in the afternoon. This has been, by Sri Lankan standards, a peaceful election.
First time we are having a peaceful election in Sri Lanka. It's not merely peaceful, but no longer have you got any pressure or any tensions in your mind as to what the outcome will be, and will there be violence, will it be respected. This is a free and fair election.
The election has been billed as the last stand of this man, Mahinda Rajapaksa. He is the self-styled warrior king who was president when Sri Lanka's 26-year-long civil war was finally brought to an end. Mr Rajapaksa is accused of running a corrupt and brutal regime, charges he denies. His bid to return to power is expected to have been thwarted by an alliance of parties headed by his great rival, Sri. Mr Sri has said he will veto Mr Rajapaksa becoming Prime Minister, but he's not expected to have to. It is reckoned Mr Rajapaksa is likely to win his seat comfortably, but his party isn't expected to get enough votes to be able to form a government. Justin Rowlett, BBC News, Delhi.
Let's get some more on this, because with me is Sudarshan Sukumaran, who's a board member of the Tamil Guardian, a Sri Lankan affairs paper based here in the UK. Thanks very much indeed for coming in. Let's just start on the elections themselves, because the authorities are saying essentially there's been no trouble in the vote. That in itself is a good news story, isn't it?
Yes, I think seeing free or no violence in elections is always a good sign of allowing people to vote and state their political sentiment. So it's about interpreting what the elections show us from here on in.
It's interesting, isn't it? The man who was rather unceremoniously defeated only a few months ago is without doubt, I think it's fair to say, the sort of star act of this whole election. Everyone's wondering where it's going to lead for Mr Rajapaksa. We don't have the results yet, so we don't quite know, but he wants to become Prime Minister. Would that be such a problem?
So it depends on whose opinion you're looking at. So Rajapaksa was defeated.
Mr Sri doesn't want it to see.
Yes, exactly. So Rajapaksa was defeated because people wanted to get rid of corruption, nepotism and family nepotism. And the reason why we've seen a rise is now he is promising to get rid of corruption and the nepotism that did plague during his regime. However, I think there has been a mixed stance between the south and the north. So within the north, we've actually seen, since Sri came in, even though he was voted in by the Tamils, we have seen mass mobilisation across the northeast with regards to issues of demilitarisation, accountability and justice, and a political settlement for the Tamil people.
So what would that mean in terms of Mr Rajapaksa re-establishing a foothold in the corridors of power? Because let's be honest, if he's Prime Minister, he's not just there to do the bidding of his president, is he? He's going to be his own man.
Yes. I guess it's going to be how he deals with the international community. So Sri Lanka is under international scrutiny in terms of how they're going to deal with the ethnic issue, delivering a political settlement to the Tamil people in the north and east, and dealing with accountability and justice. So in 2 weeks, the UN investigation will release its report into Sri Lanka's mass atrocities. So him dealing with these findings will be very telling in if there will be long stability. Now, actually, the run-up to the elections have seen a pattern which is actually resembled previous failings of previous elections, where we've seen the Tamils reiterate their previous demands of fully devolved powers to the north and east, an international justice process, and recognising their right to self-determination. However, in the south, across the political spectrum of the Sinhalese majority parties, we have seen a unanimous rejection of the Tamil demands. So it's going to be interesting to see how the new parliament will actually work to address the long-standing political ethnic issue to see actually long-term stability.
Mr Rajapaksa was saying, we're going to win this election, which would be one thing. Others obviously say, no, we're not going to have a single party in charge, it's going to need a coalition. If it requires a coalition of support, has he got the wherewithal, do you think, to re-establish himself?
It depends on what issues. So even if he comes into power with within a coalition and has a coalition of support and has to mobilise the opposition, on issues of corruption and ending nepotism, he will be okay. But I think on issues of actually the long-standing issue of a political settlement with the North and the South, he will struggle to deliver what the Tamil people demand. And the lack of political will, which he has shown in previous regimes, actually show that he may not actually have the political will to deliver what the Tamil people want.
Despite what you said at the start about the level of the response that we've seen in the North over the course of the last few months, since the election of the President, would Mr Wickremesinghe, the outgoing Prime Minister,
yes,
represent a better bet to Tamils? Would they sooner the status quo than a return to Mr Rajapaksa?
So I think Mr Wickremesinghe, in terms of promising a better rule of law and ending corruption and nepotism, has been very successful in mobilising support amongst the island. However, when it comes to the key issues that the international community have pressed of a justice mechanism and devolving powers to the North and East, even his coalition has actually outright rejected those demands during the run-up to elections.
It's going to be interesting to see how the cards fall, isn't it?
Yes,
come the results. Sudarshan, thank you very much indeed for joining us here.